with all due respect.
All right, we're here and we're just going live. We're just going live. It's Monday.
Raining.
This might not launch for a month, right?
Yeah. No, this one's coming out next week. So
Oh,
the reason that we're recording this one, just us two, is because we're celebrating 1 year of recording our podcast on, I think the first day that we dropped one was 3/18 or 3/17. So it ends up being,
yay.
yeah. So this will be, when you're listening to this, it should be Monday the 17th.
Okay. If you're even listening to it, which if you
Yeah.
are, I'm
If you're
glad.
not, lame.
Uh, yeah, I didn't know this was one. I'm glad you're here
I'm just like,
for our 1 year.
I, I get sappy about like little celebrations of things like that. Like I love celebrating little anniversaries of things. So
Yeah, it's with, and this will be like episode
45, I think. Yeah.
which is really cool because we started out like we'll do one a month and then we'll do one every 2 weeks. And then we have someone that works in this business that said, you need one a week. And we're like, oh, shoot.
Yeah. And we were
And
like,
we've done
okay, we'll do like a guest every once in a while and we'll keep it just as us two. But
it.
we've been
And we got
nailing
guests all over
having,
the place.
yeah. And like we've had consistent guests on since I think July, which is just really cool to
And it's
celebrate.
been, we've gone from youth to women co-training to addiction to, uh, I love it.
Everything.
I
I
love
do
a
too.
bunch of
I think
different
in
things.
like, having such a diverse topic of conversations, I guess, that we can have makes it really cool. It's never boring. I feel like we learn something every single week. And
Well,
all of it pertains to your health in some way, shape, or form.
we always knew this would morph into whatever.
Yeah. Whatever we just let it do.
We always said when we're going to stop when we don't have fun doing it anymore.
Hmm.
We've had a really cool people that have come on. Great weight loss stories, great health stories, great information.
Yeah.
Today, today is I've attempted to keep youth training, sports performance, and nutrition around kids kind of out of our coaching,
Yeah.
kind of out of our topics, but it keeps rearing its ugly head. Mostly because I've spent years doing it. I think that's a lot of the people that follow me know me for that. Yesterday I was at a quarterback camp thing. This is funny. And my head football coach introduced me to this guy, and he's like, mentioned the business I used to own, and he goes, the original man, the youth sports training original guy. And I'm like it
I
made me.
knew that rubbed you wrong.
Well, I don't know. I don't. I have done a lot in that industry, but it didn't rub me wrong at all. It's just we don't know who we are or who we affect because
Yeah.
we live in the silo of our everyday life. We live in this tunnel of what we go. Like I always make fun of people. Like if I'm not going to the grocery store, which I don't go to anymore, I order it all online. If I'm not going to the gym, work, home, or jujitsu, I gotta have MapQuest. No clue.
Map MapQuest is like literally
No,
so 2009. Like we have Apple
is it?
Maps.
No, I use. It's called Maps.
Yeah, Apple Maps on
Is that Apple Maps? See, I don't even know. I pull it up on my computer and I print out the directions and I read them from my car. I actually pull out a map, a physical map, I think. And I don't know where I'm going. So we live in that silo of what we do every day and who we know.
Yeah.
So when I go somewhere and I meet somebody and he's like mentions my original business and God, the original guy that really do it around here in sports performance training and stuff with kid, like, yeah, I know who you are. And I'm like, that's weird. Like the first thing I thought of was man, I'm in flip-flops and a hoodie and sweatpants here, just watching kids throw quarterback stuff. I guess I've you live in that silo, right? And and one of the big topics for me lately, and you can speak on this, is youth nutrition,
Yeah.
kid nutrition, performance nutrition.
Sure.
Um, because uh the biggest thing that a reason why I think this affects our audience and the people we talk to is because parents think they're not involved.
Yeah.
Parents, oh, that's what my kid's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever, and I did some content about this, whenever I have parents talk to me about nutrition, they're looking for me to be the bad guy.
Sure. Yeah.
What ends up happening is I say, for instance, I always tell the story. I had a parent come to me because their little kid, I always call him Billy in the story. I don't remember the kid's name. The mom goes, I want you to talk to about Billy about eating hot dogs all the time. You've heard me say this.
Yeah.
And I go, well, why are hot dogs in the house? She goes, oh, well, my husband really loves hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, let's
What do you think?
2 + 2 = 4, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
think about what you just said. Little Billy loves hot dogs because Big William sits his fat ass on the couch all day and eats hot dogs all day.
Yeah.
His habits are caught, not taught.
Right.
And Mike told me something to look into. I'm going to look into it this week. It's called mirror neurons,
Mm.
that I assume is only we end up doing the habits which we mirror the habits in which we see in our brain. It wires our brain. When you look at
Mm-hmm.
to smoke, the kids smoke, parents that drink, the kids drink, right? And I want to talk about youth sports nutrition towards the parents, not towards the kids,
Sure.
in ways that we can give parents tools to improve their kids' nutrition. And the number one thing I'm going to start off with is you must adopt the habits that you want your kid to adopt. Bottom line, you're not free here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. I talk to coaches who come to me and talk, can you talk to my kids about nutrition? It's like, well, you're 50 pounds overweight. You ride the golf cart around. You yell at your kids about discipline. You yell at your kids about doing hard work. Well, I already earned this. Like, I did this already.
Oh, that's my least favorite.
I played high school football and college football, and I earned it. And it's just, no, you got to live it, bro. Like, don't talk to your kids about discipline when you're 100 pounds overweight.
Yeah. And that, we've talked about this between us many times before, but I really never picked that out of my own childhood until you brought that up. I was
Really?
always like a pretty hard worker, but just my parents would be like, go outside and practice, and I would never put in a ton of practice outside of my actual practice because my parents never like set that precedent. They never came out with me, maybe when we were little, but not when I got into like my middle school and high school sports. My parents were never like, hey, let's go outside and pass the soccer ball around or throw the lacrosse stick. Like that never happened. So thinking back on that, when you brought that up to me and we first had talked about it, I was like, dang, I wonder how different it would be for me personally if my parents practiced what they preach, like
Wow.
let's go outside, let's go actually kick around, or let's go throw around, and like let's actually practice this together. If I would have seen my parents do that with me, I think it'd be a much different outcome.
Wow. That's interesting to say. Really?
Yeah, 100%. Like I feel like I'm naturally gifted at sports. I was never like, the best on the team, but I am naturally gifted in athletics. Like I am very athletic, but I think I could have been a much better player if I had the practice outside of my sport.
It's funny. I make this joke. I have a friend of mine that works in youth baseball performance at a pretty high level. And, we make this joke back and forth. And I watch my kid play sports sometimes. And I know different kids are athletic and some kids aren't, right? You have to understand that some kids have natural aggression, they have natural
Mhm.
athleticism, they have natural desire to win. Those are all great things kids have very early that you can tell. The aggressive ones that play hard, that want to win, they usually are good at their sports at an early age.
Mhm.
Puberty's not kicked in. That's usually where it happens. And I made this joke with my buddy is I texted him last week. I said, man, nothing screams parent failure like watching a kid that doesn't know how to kick or throw a ball. Right? I'm kind
No,
of
yeah.
like, dang, man, like, and that kid that could just, and I know in the reality the kid just might not be athletic or not might not be fun doing it or doesn't like doing it. It's not his thing, and that's okay. I've often wished my kid would never like sports and he liked piano and something else, so I didn't have to be around sports all the time. But I was like, man, nothing screams parent failure like a kid that doesn't know how to kick or throw a ball, right? Because it tells me that they don't do that with their kid.
Yeah.
Listening to this, and this is your kid, he doesn't know how to throw the ball. I get it. You're not a failure. It's more of a joke than anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
no, like my parents were obviously not bad parents whatsoever. I
yeah,
just think like when it comes back to the conversation of habits are caught, ensuring that your child, if you want them, if you're going to get onto your kid about performing at a top level, then you need to be actually out there, like showing them what those habits look like. My dad played in college. My dad played sports his entire life. If he wanted me to play in college, I'm like, that's probably something we should have done together. So,
okay. That brings up a whole nother thing. One of the issues you see in youth sports right now that you've seen forever, that is worse now than it was when I started, was parents living through their kid. And I know this is
ooh,
not youth nutrition, this is more the performance side. You know what kids want to do at a young age? They want to have fun and hang out with their friends.
mhm.
And parents are so hard. I've heard parents scream at their kid for the way they run when they're 8. Right? One of my favorite things to tell parents when they worry about their kids' athleticism is when it's a parent, I really agitates me by how hard they are in their kid. And they want their kid to perform and do high level, and they think every kid's going to be great and he's going to be a pro and all that. I like to tell parents that the biggest limiting factor for the child is their genetics.
Yeah,
And whose fault is that?
nobody's, yeah. I guess our parents, but
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, right? That's what I'm getting at.
yeah.
You bash your kid, criticize your kid, criticize your kid, criticize your kid, criticize your kid. And then I tell them, well, the limiting factor is genetics. You know who's responsible for his genetics? His parents. It's your fault. You pass the bad genes down, right?
Hmm.
Not always the truth, but it's the way I combat an asshole parent.
Yeah.
Right? Um, but I use youth sports nutrition as a way to get the parent involved in the process.
Sure.
So I say they're like, well, where's the first place we should start? And I literally did a blog about this. I'm literally in this just going to go down the blog. Um, First thing your kid needs to do is eat a big breakfast.
Hmm.
Don't skip breakfast.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people when they talk about this subject, they really get into the weeds. Like when you start searching things that say like, oh, what are the things you need to do? Your kid needs to have a good micronutrient breakdown. I'm like, whoa, bro. I got food logs that look like this. Cheerios, uh, peanut butter crackers, and Cheez-Its for lunch. A granola bar at 3, Rushes at 7, a popsicle at 11.
Hmm.
I have I have those all
Hmm.
the time. I have a lot of youth food logs that look like that. And the reason I do a food log is because I want kids. It's easier to modify a diet. Do you agree when you work with when
Oh,
you do a food log for you? Is it easier to modify it than it is to completely change it?
yeah. And that's what I'll tell people like when they're first starting off with tracking their food. I'm like, here are the numbers, but I'm not as concerned about you meeting the numbers in the first like 4 weeks because I need to get to know your pattern.
Oh, okay.
Not it normally comes a lot faster than
How
that, but
about
I'm like,
Isak? Isak last week said, and this is a
16
podcast.
weeks. Yeah.
12 weeks of the first 12 weeks of him coaching people is basically just education
Around your food.
around food.
But
And
that's the biggest thing is like I have to look for a pattern with people. And one week isn't always enough because weekends tend to look different for people. So it's like Monday through Friday might look the same generally, but that Saturday and Sunday is probably going to look a little bit different depending on if you're traveling, if you're home, if you have an event, like whatever it might be, if your kid has sports. So it's just going to depend, like those at least get like 3 or 4 weekends under their belt so I can see what their pattern is. But
yeah,
absolutely, it's much easier to see what you eat for breakfast, currently lunch, dinner, and then I can be like, okay, well, let's add this in. Let's swap this out for something else. This
uh,
probably isn't needed most days. Like, let's
yeah,
maybe take that out. So,
I like
yeah,
that. Yeah, I had a client last week start, and we literally just used the whole week on learning how to use the app to track.
yeah, 100%.
Go to
I,
the she did her workouts,
mhm,
walked, she ate breakfast every morning, and she learned to use the app.
yeah, I
This
think
week
that's
we're
the
like,
best way to
hey,
do it.
learn to track your protein this week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think when people are looking for a nutrition overhaul, they're trying to do everything all at once, and it's just not going to work that way. So whether you're like doing this for yourself or doing this as a family, start with something small, like eating a big breakfast for your first thing to learn. That's a really great one because you're going to feel the difference in how you feel every single day, and that's going to set up your habits in a really, really successful way for the day.
Yeah. So I start with eating a high protein big breakfast in the morning.
Mhm.
We have tons of content on our website that people can download of like 10 good healthy breakfasts, high protein breakfasts, right? Breakfasts or
I know.
breakfasts.
I I do that sometimes too. I think breakfasts.
Yeah.
Anything with that ends with the S on the end, it just sounds weird to make it
Yeah.
plural.
Yeah. Now I'm just
Breakfast.
like, what it was, a breakfast is.
Breakfast.
But in the blog I wrote, I literally said the first thing is parents sit down and eat breakfast with your kid.
Yeah, definitely.
15 minutes early. It could be a steak, a bagel, and a banana. I don't care.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
start by eating breakfast. So if you're listening to this and you're out there, we're starting with breakfast first thing in the morning. Nothing
Hmm.
else. I'm not even worried about anything else if your young athlete is not eating a breakfast.
I think that's great because it's like it's gonna take somebody like 7 to 14 days to get into that habit, realistically.
To eat
If
it,
I were to give you
oh,
5 different things, it's gonna take you 5 months to do those things, you know? So just starting with
yeah,
one, a week or 2 weeks, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, like this is easy. I know what this looks like.
yeah. So you think if you're a parent out there, and you're like, hey, what's week one look like? You're eating a breakfast.
Hmm.
Quest protein shake, a banana, and a bagel,
Sure. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I want to keep this very practical. Um, Number two. So we got practice at breakfast, right? Do you think
Hmm.
we agree? Breakfast number
Yeah.
breakfast number one.
I think the only like if I were to add anything else to that, it would just be making sure that you have some kind of whole food for breakfast because I think people get like cereal is not breakfast.
Okay,
Like
again,
that's just not
that's
good enough.
easy.
What?
Sometimes when I say people whole foods, the amount of people that don't know what that means.
I would normally say a piece of fruit. I'm like try to get a piece of fruit in with breakfast. So if that is swapping out your Cheerios for, apples and cottage cheese, perfect. That's a great way to do it.
Okay. And you say real food, like food that has I say food that has an expiration date,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? The next one is it says encourage them to eat nutrient dense foods. Here's where I stay with that. Here's with most kids, this is where I start because parents think that giving their kid a credit card in the DoorDash app is feeding their kid, right? And guys, there's nothing I'm not saying in this whole podcast that isn't stuff I've already heard. I'm not making these up.
No, these are real.
Literally know parents
Hmm.
who have said, well, what do you do nutrition? Well, he can order whatever he wants. He's got the DoorDash app and a credit card. And I'm like, well, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, like it's gonna be Domino's every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when I say eat nutrient dense foods, the way I manage that with a kid is I give them a certain number of out to eat foods a week. Because here's the deal. female and male athlete, everybody, they want to go eat with their friends sometimes, right? Like after
Yeah, and that's like
I'm gonna take,
Zaxby's and like freaking Cookout.
I'm gonna take that away from you, right? If you want to go
Yeah.
eat pizza with your boys, that's cool. If your girlfriends are hanging out, they all go get sushi. That's fine, right? I totally get it. So what I do is I say, here's the deal. You're eating out 2 times, or it really depends on how many times, how bad their food log looks. If they're eating out like 10 meals a week, I tell them 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Again, guys, it's because I've heard 10 meals a week. I'm not making that up. So I said, I need the majority of your food to come from your home, at your home,
Mm-hmm.
or like the lunch at school, right? So we're going to limit the amount. What that does for kids is it naturally teaches them how to prepare foods, how to cook foods. It gets them working with mom and dad on going grocery shopping. It teaches them how to grocery shop, teaches them how to cook and prepare foods, because cooking and preparing foods long term that kids like, we're in the second generation. Would you agree we're in the second generation of that happening? Like people, I mean,
Yeah.
age are having kids
Yeah. No, yeah, they are.
in the 30s. Yeah, you're like, that's true.
Yeah.
We might approaching the third generation of the people that don't know how to use a kitchen and
Yeah.
never taught them how to use a kitchen, right? So when we talk about nutrient dense foods, I'm telling kids you get a certain number of meals out a week, learn to prepare food to take to you to school
Mhm.
or wherever you go, or after school or at snack time. Learn to prepare it, because when you tell them, they're naturally going to eat more caloric dense foods.
Mhm.
We can admit and we know that, because we've worked with so many people in weight loss. I know people that literally lost a boatload of weight by not eating out.
Yeah, and even just choosing better when you eat out too. Like Alston, I'll be the first to admit, Alston and I love to go out to eat. It's one of our favorite things to do. But learning to order, if you are going to get something out to eat, that still follows what you would generally eat at home. So that's when I always like to use the plate rule with clients of, 50% of your plate should be a vegetable or, a healthy carb for the most part. Typically, it's like getting a big bowl or a salad or something like that. And then 25% protein, 25% that healthy carb. So, you
You
know,
have success with the plate rule.
yeah, I love the plate roll. It's just a good, idea around if you are going to order out. Because there is not, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with eating out. It's just making sure that your choices are good choices, right? And then the same thing for, the people that are like, oh, well, I don't know how to cook. Okay, we are living in a time where we have the most information at our hands as ever. There's YouTube, there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Facebook. There are 1 million cooking shows on all of them.
Yeah.
Go follow that. It's really not that difficult. And
You
something that I told you, what's that?
get an air fryer.
I was just about to say, like, my air fryer, because our oven literally just turned off again. Air fryer is fantastic. It takes me 15 minutes to cook a meal in the air fryer. Now, is that always the best case if for a family of four? No, but it's at least going to start you somewhere.
Yeah. When's the
Yeah.
last time No, you turn on your oven. You use your oven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We use everything. We have a grill, we have an oven, we have our air fryer, the microwave, like we use all of it. But I'll tell you what, maybe 50 or 60% of the recipes that we cook every week, TikTok.
Really?
100%. Alston's favorite thing to do is to sit on TikTok, text me, and be like, I know what I'm making for dinner.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, I'm so disconnected. I'm so disconnected from that, right?
I
Like
know.
so disconnected from somebody once told me that we first learn to eat with our eyes.
Sure. Yeah.
I go, man, I don't know. That's not true for me because the food I eat looks horrible, right?
But I feel like you watch it, like you
Yeah, but
figure
they're
out how
like
to
the
make it.
eyes look at it and it looks appealing to your eyes, so you eat it.
Hmm.
Um, so the number two, and guys, I'm going straight off the blog. Encourage them to eat nutrient dense foods, lean meats, complex carbohydrates, healthy fats, fruits and vegetables. The way I do this with kids is I trick them by telling them they need to learn how to and give them the skills to take food from home, right? Cook at home, prepare
Yeah.
food, don't eat out as much.
Hmm.
Number three is going to be the obvious one, I think. If you've watched our podcast, if you've heard us talk, um, athletes need to have protein in every meal,
Hmm. And
right?
I mean, not even just athletes,
No,
everyone.
yes, yes.
You need to start thinking protein first.
Every human needs to prioritize protein in their meal.
Hmm.
Um, Aesop came said there's research that shows like 1.5 grams per pound is coming out to even be beneficial. Didn't he say that? A high number
I
or
don't remember, but I mean, yeah, probably. But no, I'm like, you should be protein forward. We've been over this 100 times too. It is not that hard to get 100 grams of protein in. It's really not that hard. You're just not trying. Sorry.
yeah, I have
Sorry.
I have no, you're right. You're just not being intentional. You think it's going
Hmm.
to happen on accident.
Yeah, it's not going to fall in your
People
lap.
and we deal with a lot of weight loss people. So many people in weight loss think it's going to happen on accident,
Hmm.
and it takes intention.
Hmm.
Same thing with nutrition for kids. Anytime I've had a person, so I tell people start tracking, and I'll have a lot of athletes track protein. I
Hmm.
don't care if it's just on their phone every day.
Sure.
Like, I ate this, ate this, ate this, ate this, and it's what it looks like. And then they delete it, and the next day they do it again just to make sure they're getting a protein. When I actually write down what 100 grams of protein is, they go, "Oh, that's easy.
I could do it in 4 different foods.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, 100 grams of protein is absolutely zero."
Nothing. Yeah, it's literally nothing. And the craziest thing to me too, but also probably not super surprising, is that when I work with kids, like I don't work with a ton of people under like 25, but whenever I do, they are so easy. Like they're like, "All right, I can do that." I don't know if you experience that, but
Yeah,
these
yeah,
kids are so
yeah.
like I just worked with um this girl, and she's 18, and she's a Spenga member, and she's a full-time dancer. Like that is her thing. She's going off to like a conservatory for dance in May. I gave her numbers. We were working on upping her calorie amount, getting her like close to a maintenance calorie because she had been under eating, which women do. And I would check in with her, and I'm like, I got nothing because you've hit everything so quickly, so easily. Every time we'd increase, there's no complaints. She's like, I feel amazing. Like, I don't know if it's just that she's already so disciplined and she has healthy home habits, or if it's just that she's 18 and she's like, whatever, like, I'm just gonna do it. There's no complaints. It's crazy.
I worked with a mom and a 16-year-old girl who plays soccer that wants to play college soccer. She wanted to learn nutrition. And at first we were going to like have a couple consult calls, and then she was going to become a client. Her and her mom were going to do it together.
Hmm.
I'm very honest with people if you don't need me.
Yeah, sure.
We did a first consult call, did a second consult call, and I went, all right, you guys are good.
Yeah, that's how 3 months later, I was
Good
like,
here. Yeah,
yeah.
good here. Yeah, I
Hmm.
already explained the role of protein. They both did a couple food logs. We gave them a shopping list. They got it. They hit it. Second follow up was they're all good. And I'm like, okay, rinse and repeat. Call me if you need
Yeah,
anything. Right?
yeah, literally.
Yeah. When I talk to kids about doing it, um, why is that though?
I was kind of like thinking about that in my head. And one, like I was saying, is there's already so much discipline inside of that 16-year-old and inside of my 18-year-old that I was working with. Like so much discipline. It's going to my workouts, it's going to dance. It's going to my workouts, it's going to dance. Secondly, I think it's not a lot of like personal freedom. You're still living at home, so a lot of the things that your parents do, you're going to be doing that. And like I said, this particular client had really healthy home habits. Like her parents were very good about teaching them to eat well, and keeping them disciplined. And then third, I think it's because there's probably not a ton of outside influence to do things that don't necessarily align with your goals. So like they're 16 and 18, they can't drink alcohol legally, at least. So they're not going out and like on the weekends and hanging out with friends and trashing their bodies, hopefully. Um,
One
so
of
I don't know. I think it's probably a number of things, but not every kid is like that, you
yeah.
know?
One of the things I was going to say is kids at that age have less decisions to make.
Yeah, they do.
When you're 20s, 30s, 40s, and life kind of hits you in the face, you're like, I'm making so many decisions every day. I don't want to care about my food.
Right, exactly.
Where that person probably worries about their friends, their school, their sport, and oops, food.
Yeah, that's
Right.
it.
Do you think, let me ask you this one, they have had less time to instill bad habits?
Mm,
Like a person at 40 and a person at 18, they've been doing bad habits longer than the person at 18?
sure. I mean, yeah, I think that can definitely be argued.
I don't know.
I think part of that though is like I said, it's they don't have a ton of personal freedom. So they don't have the room for a lot of that right now. Like, and I was also never allowed to be lazy in my house. Like, that was not a thing. I'm up. If I'm sitting in my room, my parents are like, out,
Yeah.
go, get outside. Like, it wasn't allowed. So I couldn't make the decision to go and sit on the couch unless I was like not feeling well, you
Yeah.
know?
I've had this conversation. We've had this conversation before. And this in no way is a knock on anybody. I grew
No.
up with a very conscious exercise and eating family.
Hmm.
Mom and dad exercised. We had to eat fruits and vegetables. I got a 2 liter of soda once a month.
Hmm.
I got a small thing of ice cream once a month. Um, Fruit roll-ups weren't at the house. It's funny now, my favorite thing is gummy bears, but I wasn't allowed fruit
Yeah.
roll-ups.
Yeah.
Uh,
We didn't have anything that was like off limits, but I also just didn't really like any of that stuff. Like I've since I was born, have always been a really healthy eater. Like my mom was, oh, she'll tell you she was like amazed with me as a baby because I would just eat anything. I
really,
didn't, yeah,
uh,
I didn't really have any like, I don't like those things except for like peas, and I still don't like peas. But
like we
um,
didn't have like a bag of chips would have to last a month.
yeah, that's funny.
Bag of chips. Like, when I was a kid, we just weren't allowed to eat that way.
Yeah.
It's funny that that was like in the 80s, 90s, right? And it's
Hmm.
like, and on the opposite side of that, Rachel's family was allowed anything,
Yeah, we were allowed anything.
and they could have anything in the house. So where we have a rub is when we prepared like lunch for my kid, and say she's gone, I got to make lunch for the kid. I'm like grapes, carrots, one treat, and
Yeah.
we'll do like he loves like these little organic little chicken nugget things we put in the air fryer and we wrap them up. He takes chicken nuggets to school. And he'll be like, "Mom doesn't make me do grapes. Mom does." Listen, if that kid will sell me out in a second,
Hmm.
I'll get on him about something in front of his mom, and he'll be like, "Daddy cursed in the car last week." I'm like, what? He's like, "Yeah, he did." So basically, if you're gonna make me eat carrots, I'm gonna tell mom every time I hear you curse.
But it's funny though, like the blend of parenting. Because I'd say my parents were like my mom was more like you, and my dad was more like Rachel. Like my mom, if my mom ever packed my lunch, it's like I have 4 slices of turkey on a sandwich, and I have 4 barbecue twisties in a Ziploc bag, and like 3 M&Ms. And if my dad packed the sandwich, it's like I have 8 ounces of deli sliced turkey on my sandwich. I have the whole bag of barbecue twisties. And if I wanted a cookie, it's in there and there's a love note on the top of it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
so my mom was a little bit more like, eat your fruits and vegetables. We're going to eat healthy as a family. My dad was very lax about nutrition, is still very lax about
yeah.
nutrition. But I think maybe having that blend made me understand both of them in moderation, if that makes sense. But I also, like I said, I was just never been a sweets person. I like ice cream occasionally. I like cookies occasionally, but I don't feel the need for them.
Yeah, Rachel's like, we had fruity pebbles and bologna, and
Yeah.
I wasn't on bologna because my mom's like, it's not a meat.
Oh yeah, we didn't eat bologna either.
It's a word. Like when I say bologna, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah, same.
bologna ketchup on it or something. But I think I get confused when I see food like because I didn't grow up in that, right? And it's
Mhm.
not a judgment thing, right? I just didn't
No, it's
grow
just different.
I just didn't grow up in it. And those habits took off when I went to college. Like I just ate. I remember being amazed that people had multiple boxes of like sugary cereal in their house when I'd go to their house when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
bags of like Doritos and you know we did as a family pizza one night a week, never was another night a week. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't,
Yeah. I
um,
always love this conversation though, because I think that's one of the best ways to kind of show people if you want change in your kids' personal nutrition, you have to recognize where your nutrition is and where you came from. Like your nutrition that you have now is almost always a direct result of what your nutrition was when you were growing up. So like if you have a poor relationship with nutrition, it was likely that your parents were the same way.
mm,
So if you want change in your own child, you have to practice something different and make that change. You can't just expect your kid to make it. They're not going to do it if there's 14 boxes of cereal in the cabinet.
I think the greatest thing I've done with working with kids recently is getting their parent to be an active member of the process
Definitely.
with their kid and eating some of the foods with their child, help create a healthier home, a healthy environment, so that sets up the kid for success.
Definitely.
Uh,
Yeah.
the next one I talk to people about is and this is probably an everybody thing, right? Is feeling the body every 3 to 4 hours.
Mm,
Now,
good.
I want to dispel the myth of we're not eating small meals multiple times a day to stoke the metabolism,
Metabolism.
right? Yeah, you hit it, right? That's not it. They are every 3 to 4 hours, we're feeding the body to make sure the body has a consistent flow of nutrients
Hmm.
so it can perform at the highest level.
Hmm.
Most people, most kids, that's 3 meals and 2 snacks,
Hmm.
right? 3 meals and 2 snacks. I talk to people about doing that, getting breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks to fuel the body, because a majority of kids, especially a majority of female athletes, are underfueled.
Severely. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and there's multiple reasons for that, right?
Yeah.
Social reasons, there's who knows, right? Um, a there are people that go online kind of chastise girls like, you need to learn to feel your body because you're an athlete and you got to do that. Yeah, but there's also a lot of there's a social side to that, right?
Yeah.
To girls. Did you ever experience that growing up? Did you
No,
ever?
because I didn't give a shit. Like I just like I'm gonna eat like a dude. I never cared. It never bothered me. Like I never had bad body image. And we've talked about this before too. Like my mom never talked poorly about herself. Like I just didn't grow up with a mom that was ever she would get on to me if I ever looked like shit. Like if I went to school and I looked like a ragamuffin, she would tell me.
Right.
But I never had a mom
Also
that
got
was
some
like,
style too, right? It's like
what?
your mom's got some style though to her, right?
Yeah, and like I was an athlete, my mom was a dancer, like we're very different women. Very different women. But I was much more of a tomboy and I never cared. I just didn't care. Like if I was going to go to school and eat as much as the boys and somebody had something to say about it, I didn't care. I just
Yeah,
never struggled
good for
with
you.
that.
Yeah.
So I never really had a bad relationship with food or with under eating, but I definitely can understand why it happens, and I've 100% seen it with whether it's with friends or with clients that I've worked with. It's always noticeable,
Mm.
right? But I think more than anything, like you do as a female have to remember that you still have a working metabolism. It's not broken in any way, shape, or form. Is it as high as a man's or a boy's? No, but you still have to feed it. And especially if you're an athlete, I think the reverse is sometimes a little bit more helpful. Instead of thinking to yourself, like, I need to eat as much as I can, just period, think like I need to feel as best as I can for my sport. And if I'm not fed, I'm not recovering well, and I'm definitely lightheaded at practice, and that's not a fun place to be in.
The number of girls I've worked with, and I'm real sensitive about how I work with a female.
Yeah.
I do not fit the avatar of what most female girls, young girls, are going to want a guy they're going to want to talk to about their food.
Yeah.
I would rather them talk with you. I'm going to be honest, right? I'd rather
That's
them talk
cool.
with you, and that makes me feel better. I have to tiptoe around girls that ask me about nutrition, but I say 100% of the girls that have incorporated what I've recommended feel and perform remarkably better.
Yeah,
Like, oh
100%.
my gosh, I can't tell you how much better I feel.
Yeah,
I've never worked with a young athlete, and I say this, I've worked with professional athletes in nutrition. Every single one of the professional athlete goes, I wish I would have done this in college. Every time I work with a college person, a college athlete on nutrition, they go, how much greater would I have been if I did this in high school?
exactly.
Every time I work with a high school student and help them with their nutrition or a high school athlete, they say, I wish I would have done this 2 years ago.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
remarkably improved the quality of my life and my performance.
Yeah, and you just have to think of like your late teens and into your 20s being your foundational work, right? Like when you have a lot of time if you're 18 years old and you're listening to this and you're a female, like you have a lot of time before you have to start thinking about going into menopause. But what you do right now is going to matter for that. Like building up your foundation as far as getting enough nutrients in, taking care of your hormones, making sure you have a regular cycle, making sure you have regular sleep. If you can build those things up, you'll have 30, 40 years underneath you that when you do go through menopause, it's going to be a lot easier for you, you know? And I think, that gets forgotten sometimes is to think that far ahead, but think of that as your foundational work.
Well, Allison that we've had on here said the best thing she ever did was build muscle in her 20s as a female.
Exactly.
As
Yeah.
the 40s is going to be so much easier.
Yeah. And like we were just talking about, like your life now as an 18-year-old or as a 16-year-old is a lot easier than it's going to be when you're 28. I can tell you. 38, 48. Like it's a lot easier right now. So if you can make food one less thing you have to think about a lot when you're 28, 38, 48, make that decision.
Do you know who after the Olympics the rugby girl that kind of got really popular?
Alona? Yeah.
Alana Moore.
Yeah. Mayor, Alona Mayor, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Alana.
Yeah. You know what we're talking about.
She's like 5'10",
Yeah.
200,
Yeah. She's a
right?
brick.
I'm like 5'10", 5'11", like 205. So she's
Yeah, right.
right. And like she's got like a neck.
Mhm.
She was on the swimsuit issue and all that kind of stuff. She had some really good videos when she really got popular where she would post something of her and someone would comment like, you look like a dude. Well, she would then post a video replying to that person.
Yeah.
Not rude,
Hmm.
not mean, not middle finger, which what I wanted to be like, hey, I'll kill you, right? Um, where she explains her history,
Hmm.
where she came from, what she struggled with as a kid, to create awareness to people who say things like, you look like a dude.
Yeah.
She said the best thing that ever happened to her as a young girl was when she started to realize the way her body was. Because she's like, I was 13, 14 like this, y'all. Like, I was this, I was bigger and stronger than boys the whole life. Was to realize she started playing sports and her body had utility,
Hmm.
that I could use my strength and speed for purpose.
Yeah.
And then I started to fuel my body for purpose. And she goes, my whole body image and what I looked like changed when I realized I have utility. This body that I was born with has utility. And I've used that with girls who have asked me about food. And I'll say, well, what sport do you play? Oh, I play this. Okay, your body has utility in that sport. Fuel your body to have utility. It's like it's like finding a girl that's 13 years old and she's 6'1", and she's always scared because she's taller than everybody. Then she realized I can score 20 points a game in the basketball.
Yeah.
She goes, oh,
And beyond that too, like a woman's body forever has utility. Some people will choose not to have kids, but your body was made to do so.
yeah,
So you need to think of that in a sense of my body has work to do.
mm,
My body will always have work to do. It doesn't matter. Same with a man too, though. Like we were made to be active. We were not made to be sedentary. We
yeah,
weren't originally a sedentary species. So we have to think of that in a sense of my body is made to perform. It's
yeah.
not made to sit.
I was just really inspired by when she started talking about
Yeah. She's cool.
to fuel my body for the utility that it has. And then she's like, and I have a bronze medal in the Olympics. And what do you have?
Yeah, so F you.
Like that, right?
You got a bronze medal in eating potato chips. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, you
Like,
got
come on.
making fun of criticizing women on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Um, every girl that I get to eat, I don't mean this to be just towards girls. I just think that's more of the, you know, you tell a dude how to,
Can be.
you tell a dude how to eat. It's very much just a game, right? Here's some foods. Here's
Mhm.
how often you eat. They don't care. They're going to eat it in front of their buddies. It's going to be all over their face, um, because they're trying to get big, right?
Yeah.
um, the second thing I talk to people about, and this one will blow your mind, have a high schooler document their hydration.
Mm.
A college athlete document their hydration. It's funny. I'm like, how are you alive?
The only argument I
How
could
are
ever
you?
make for a high school kid is that you're limited with how many times you get to go to the bathroom. Now, I guess you could go in between all of your classes, but like in high school, I had some teachers that would tell me no, that you can't go
You can
to
go
the
pee.
bathroom.
You can get up and
Yeah,
go pee.
true. Yeah, yeah.
That means the
So
people that didn't have to go pee, that just wandered the hallways for 10 minutes, ruined it for everybody.
that's not me. Like I go to the bathroom. I'm a bathroom goer, but there would definitely be some teachers that were like, no, you can't go to the bathroom.
Have you ever talked to adults about their hydration?
Oh yeah, like a bottle of water every day, and I'm like, are you okay?
Yeah, 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 you. Anything we good?
I have this one client, like she loves water now, like loves water. It's her favorite thing in the world. But, you know, occasionally it will slip. And the first thing she'll always tell me is if she's let it slip and she, like, for example, when we get into the winter time, everybody's water intake tends to slip a little bit just because it's cold outside. You're not
Yeah.
sweating as much. She's like, I just forget the power of water sometimes. There's like, I feel better when I drink water. I don't have as many cravings when I drink water. I'm obviously like, I function a lot better when I have water. And I'm like, I know, it's crazy.
What is it? Is a 0.5 ounces per pound of body weight. So if you're
Oh,
100,
maybe a little more if you sweat more.
they say, but that's the minimum, not including during exercise.
Yeah.
That's like your BMR, right? That's like your basal
Mhm.
metabolic rate. That's just to get into the game.
Yeah.
It's just to be a human being.
Hmm.
Is for a 200-pound person to get 100 ounces of water a day. That's just normal, everyday body function. Has nothing to do with what you drink during your exercise, when you work out, when you sweat, all of that. I've got to the point now that I do 20 ounces of water. I drink coffee. Do you drink coffee?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, One of the most miraculous things that happened this year is I only do 1 cup of coffee in the morning. That's all the caffeine I do.
Yeah.
Blows my mind because me and you used to sit and do videos at the place you work and smash.
I give myself one energy drink per week, and it's normally like on a Saturday, but
When is
yeah.
it?
What?
What kind of energy drink is it?
Normally rain,
What's the one we used to drink?
bangs,
Things that were like, that stuff was poisonous antifreeze out of a car.
bang and a Cliff Bar, baby.
Yes, and we would sit and do a video at 1:30,
Yeah.
chug a bang, and
Yeah.
I would be. You ever been asleep but wide awake?
Yes. Yeah. Or just like tweaking. Like if I ever drink a
I
Celsius, I'm
felt
tweaking.
bloodshot and
Yeah.
shivering, but I felt like I was still asleep at like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, bro.
Yeah.
Yes. Why would we? And so now I just do a coffee in the morning. But here's what I do: I do a
Mm.
coffee and a 20-ounce water with an electrolyte in it and chug it.
Yep. Yeah. That's
You know what's happened every morning? I wake up thirsty.
Oh, I wake up parched in the morning.
And I chug
Yeah.
it, and I drink a coffee,
Hmm.
right? I
Yeah, I
think
try to always do 12 to 16 ounces of water before I even drink my coffee. And then I'll have God knows how many of these every day.
how many do you think you do?
Let's see, I think that is two, probably three or four,
How
I'd
big is
say.
it? 30?
I think it's 32, yeah.
I've
I
seen
drink a ton of water though.
you're
A
getting
ton.
you're
Yeah.
getting you're getting a good amount of
Hmm.
water. Yeah.
Yeah, but I sweat a ton. Like I just sweat 3 hours in the mornings on Monday. I'll go for another workout at 4:30. Like, yeah.
I shoot for 100, not including what I do during workouts and jujitsu, which is about 100.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
got this weird thing with water. I can't have a lot of water in my stomach when I do jujitsu.
Oh yeah.
I can sip it and I get it in my mouth, but like I see people in between rolls like chugging water, and I'm like, bro, I would throw that up all over you.
Mm-mm.
I'd throw up.
It's like little sips during activity, and then I'll chug it after.
I almost just want my mouth wet. Just
Yeah.
drink it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Getting kids. One of the coolest things that happened since COVID is that people have to bring their own water bottles.
Mm.
Remember during COVID, kids would go to school and they can't drink out of the fountains or something,
Yeah.
and they had to bring their own water bottles. Now they're like dazzled up and styled up, and they cost $40 and those kind of things. Yeah, there you go. Um, yeah, yeah, right, like that. Um, but if you look at what we talk about, right? Breakfast, quit eating out, cook at home, nutrient dense foods, prioritize
Hmm.
protein, eat every 3 to 4 hours, and have better hydration. We can get into the weeds with kids, but you got to understand, or young athletes, or just athletes in general, you really got to keep it simple.
Yeah. I mean, with people in general.
I would never tell, and this is just me. Very few times have I recommended a kid to track their calories.
Hmm.
I can think of maybe two athletes off the top of my head. One was a male football player who went 149 to 176 in 7 or 8 months. Now,
Yeah.
puberty kicked in,
Yeah.
and he was doing about 3,400 calories a day, and he was all into it, and he did it. The other one was a girl who had a previous college athlete who had a previous eating disorder, and this wasn't a client. This was just a girl I knew and had a relationship with. I knew her dad, and she talked to me about things. She did it as an accountability tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
She told me that she pushed for 26. So she used to eat like 1,000 calories a day, was a college athlete, admittedly had an eating disorder in high school. We pushed her to 2,000, then 2,200, and then 2,400 as a 125-pound girl. She told me there was a remarkable difference in how she felt and performed from 2,000 to 2,400.
Oh yeah.
400 extra calories a day made a huge difference. She's like that. I go, that's like a meal, like a small meal. And she goes, during the intense training for college in the college environment, it got to the point where that was her ability to be better than the person pushing for her position, was that
Hmm.
she knew she took care of her nutrition and her food, and the other
Hmm.
girls didn't, and she could last longer, recover better, push harder because she was proactive. Now, it was a strategy. It's hard for a 125-pound girl to get 2,400 calories in.
Hmm.
You do not do that on accident.
Yeah. That's the 18-year-old that I was working with. She wanted to gain weight and wanted to get her cycle back. She had just gotten her cycle, and
Okay.
it was more so that like normally as a female you'll get your first cycle and then it might not come back for like a year. That's really normal. So we're kind of working on those things, but she's 110 pounds and she's up to 2250 now, I think, or 2200 as 110 pounds. But I know she's put on, I think, 3 pounds. So,
Isn't that so frustrating when you work with them? They're eating that much and they're like, yeah, I'm up 3. I had a girl that was competing in lightweight jujitsu,
mhm,
blue belt, so pretty new. By new in jujitsu, I say actually 2 years in. It's a pretty lot of time in jujitsu, but still new. The blue belt wanted to compete and was like 110, and we got her up to 2,200 calories or so. She got up to about 118.
mhm.
But man, that came so slow. She was one that I said, start taking pictures so you can see
Yeah.
it. A remarkable, incredible difference in 110 to 118 and what she
Yeah.
looked. I'll say this, and I said it in the last one. The texture, the color of her skin almost changed.
Yeah, 100%.
It looked better. healthy.
I just don't think people, it's the same thing that we've talked about with sleep before. People don't realize how bad they feel until they eat more food or until they get better sleep or until they drink enough water. And then when they finally do, they're like, holy crap. Like, I just didn't even realize what I was missing.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So interesting to see the when I see food logs from kids or older athletes, it blows my mind that they work all these hours and all this hard and lifting and working out and their skill, and they don't do anything proactive for their nutrition. If you're a person that breakfast is, you know, cinnamon toast crunch with a muffin later on that day and then a granola bar and then, rushes at dinner, you're not doing anything to give yourself a leg up for
Yeah, nothing. Hmm.
there's nothing proactive you're doing outside of eating when you're hungry and eating what you have.
Yeah. And like for kids too, you know, sports will come to an end one day, unfortunately. Hold on to it while you can, but these things will still matter as an adult. You still have to perform optimally at your day-to-day life. So don't feel like, oh, I'm only going to do these habits for 6 months or a year while I continue my sport and then I can do whatever I want. No. You want to perform and feel well for the rest of your life. And if you're somebody that is wanting to keep some kind of exercise routine in play, then that's when you kind of channel this is no longer for my sport, but it's now for my physical fitness. You kind of switch direction with that, you know?
I see some people, there's some nutrition coaches that I see that work with young kids, and they make comments that are funny sometimes. They're like, you're not serious if you're not paying attention to your nutrition if you're a college and high school athlete and want to play college. And I'm like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
They've just never create a relationship or talk to anybody that explains to them the importance and then sees them through. Doesn't mean they're not serious. Doesn't mean they don't care. It means they don't know.
Yeah. I mean, how many high school coaches realistically have a good grasp on nutrition?
None. Zero.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I mean, I had soccer coaches that would tell me, basic foundation work, like you make sure you're eating before you get here, make sure you have snacks so that if you're in between games or it's halftime and you need to grab something, like it'd be very basic stuff. But
The
no
basic
one,
stuff just so you don't fall out between a game.
yes, yes, like very basic stuff. But, otherwise, I mean, they'd have like 3 to 4 tips. They don't have knowledge in nutrition.
I do think with the current culture change, I think we are now more allowed to have food conversations with people.
Hmm.
Um, I have had a lot of conversations within the last 2 years of kids that are actually concerned that they don't know how to prepare and cook their own food when they go off to college.
Yeah. Don't let your kid be in that.
Yeah, I
Like,
literally have parents, kids be like, "Coach, when I go to college, what do I do? I don't know."
maybe that's our next guide that we create, like 20 college-friendly recipes.
Yeah, things like that are great, right? Because
Hmm.
um, I don't think people. It's not like people don't want to. I do believe this. It's not like people don't want to have good nutrition. It's not like they don't want to be healthy. From a nutrition standpoint, we've completely screwed the pooch
Hmm.
for multiple decades on educating people how to take care of their body nutritionally
Hmm.
and do so long enough that they see a benefit and then it sticks.
Yeah. Well, that's, back to the conversation we always have. Convenience has killed us. Convenience has killed everyone. So things are getting made too easy now, right? Like just grab and go stuff at the grocery store, which some of it's great, some of it is totally fine, but it's become too easy. So now it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to spend 15 or 20 minutes cooking a meal when I can just grab these little P3 snacks from the aisle, from the shelf, you
Yeah,
know?
I saw a funny video somebody did that went back and blamed everything on the TV and the TV dinner. And as soon as the
Sure.
TV was made and we all just vegged around the TV and then the dinner was made, it was completely downhill.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we went over all of it. What do you do today? What do you got to do today?
Um, there's some things I could be doing.
I don't know. South Carolina,
Uh,
it's like 48 degrees and rainy in March 10th.
yeah, and it's just like I don't know. Some Mondays, if I've had a really busy weekend, I've found that even just because I teach on Mondays from 7 in the morning till 10:30. I normally keep myself busy with a couple other things, but at least one or two Mondays I have to take a couple hours. Just I got or I'll have a shitty week. And this week is one of those weeks that I have to work every day. So I will be working Saturday and Sunday. So
Yeah, I veg. I need to. I used to work out Monday morning and do jujitsu,
mhm.
and I
Yeah.
quit Monday morning to give myself more time to do things Monday night, just to get some chill,
Yeah.
just to get some chill time in there.
Yeah.
Rain really, I'm telling you, when it's cold and rainy, I feel like I want to be like my dogs right now.
No, seriously, they're all like vegging out, sleeping. Literally, Murphy's right here beside me.
They don't want to go outside either.
No, they don't. So, yeah, I have a few things, like probably just some back office little stuff, but I'm gonna take it easy today. Traveling is just so hard on the weekends and then trying to come back to work.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we appreciate you guys. We'll probably do more stuff around sports nutrition.
for sure. I mean, it like the basic principles of sports nutrition are things that everybody should be doing. It's just a little bit different when it comes to eating around your sport or eating around your workout, you know.
Yeah, maybe,
And
maybe
typically your caloric amount is going to be higher, but yeah, 100%. It's always interesting to me, and I think having these conversations, like I was saying at the beginning, when you can actually think about where your habits came from, I feel like it's easier to detach from those current habits. So me being able to recognize things that went on in my childhood and obviously be like, there's no blame. It's just like, this is why it is. Then
yeah.
I can be like, oh, well, here's the way out of it. You know, so having those conversations, I think is helpful.
The number one thing I've started doing with parents is, and I've said it before, is getting them to be active participants in their kids' nutrition.
Yeah.
That is such a big part. But
Yeah. No, make it a family thing for sure.
enjoy your Monday.
Yeah. And thanks for hanging out with us for a year, y'all.
Right.
I
Right. All right.
know.
I'll talk soon.
Bye.
With all due respect.